Okay. Well, look, just before we start, and you've got the cameras are rolling. So it's Harley Davidson. This is the Harley Davidson Livewire, which is awesome. Like I hadn't ridden one since last December, and anyway, Harley have lent me one for a while, and I just forgotten how much fun it is. But if you get a bit of Tipex and you put a C here, it says Charley Davidson, and it's spelled the same way as me. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd point that out.
I'm good with that. That's a good one. Well, I bet
it just shows you what happens when you sit on a bike for 3 months. You just sit there, your mind just goes bonkers. I mean, that's one of the lovely things, isn't it, about riding bikes, that escapism. Anyway.
I would just normally carry on talking, but A, the coffees are coming, and B, I will just do one proper intro and be vaguely professional about it. I am going to dispense with my usual fairly lengthy preamble because I am super, super excited after such a long wait that I'm here talking with Charley about Long Way Up. I'm so excited about hearing all about it. I've seen a little bit, so I've just got 1,000,001 questions. But let me just start with, I said we've been waiting for a long time. It's been 12 years. Why such a long wait?
12 years, yeah. Well, it's funny because I think one of the reasons is when we finished Long Way Down, we did Long Way Around, Long Way Down quite quickly with each other, and when we did Long Way Down, we came back and Ewan headed off to Los Angeles to start living there, and I was here, and my career was after Long Way Round and Down was kicking off. I did the Dakar Rally and Finding Means, Extreme Frontiers, all of which are on Amazon at the moment. And we kind of, because we were living on either side of the pond, we kind of sort of, our relationship kind of just drifted. And not that we fell out or anything like that, it just drifted along, and he was over there and working them. He was working over here, bizarrely, a lot. Even though he's living in Los Angeles, but when he was here, I was always off making another TV show, and so we never really had the opportunity to spend much time together. So, and then in 2016, I had a huge motorcycle crash, and I really smashed my legs up quite badly.
Yes, well, I came to see you at home, and you were in the wheelchair, and your legs were both in pins. And,
I know. I mean, it was bad, and that was a big. And for Ewan, he. That happened, and then my wife told him, and then he rang my phone to sort of see if I was okay and stuff, and he got some guy from Triumph, and he said, is this Charley's phone? He goes, yeah, no, this is Charley's phone, but I'm so sorry, Ewan, he can't treat, he's in surgery, and he's going to be there I think I was there for 8 hours or something like that in the surgery, and he was just about to get on a motorbike to go to work, and he sort of thought, do I want to be on a motorbike, and then he thought, no, Charley would want me to be on a bike, I'm not going to change, so he went off on this motorbike, and then I think we both, in my recovery and stuff, I think we both thought, we haven't seen each other for such a long time, and somehow that accident kind of sort of got us back together, and for once I was stuck in London for a number of years. And then he was over working, and he came and stayed for a while, and we kind of picked up, as best friends do, you just pick up where you left off. It doesn't matter how long it's been since you have or haven't spoken to each other. And it went on from there. And then I had a second accident a couple of years later, once I was sort of just about walking, and I went off and did a motorcycle tour.
Yeah, we saw
a
little kid of you in South Africa, wasn't it? I mean, you were
looking that was
horribly
a massive one
horribly banged up.
Yeah, that was really bad. And that was almost worse than the first one, and I broke and snapped my forearm in half and bent it backwards, and broke my collarbone and broke my pelvis, and had to have all three plated, and I had a big head injury as well, and anyway, so while we're kind of recuperating from that, you and I got together, we started talking about, maybe it's time to do another one, and Long Way Up, and then we were having dinner at my place, and Russ Malkin and Dave Alexander, our American and British producers, they and business partners came along, and we were talking about it, and obviously South America was the one to do, and Russ kind of just floated it along and said, what about electric?
Okay,
And
so
Russ,
it was Russ who you hold responsible for being
Yeah.
the first one to mention the word electric.
yeah, first one to mention, but it was just sort of floated there. Russ loves, things that people haven't done before. He loves, record-breaking stuff. He loves, stuff that is frontier kind of new stuff. And we sat and we spoke about it and thought about it, and there is this big wave of electric coming through with electric cars. The wave is coming, and
Yeah, we got no choice about it.
We have no choice about it, and fast chargers are everywhere now. Sadly, not in South America or Central America or pretty much anywhere we went. There was no fast chargers. So, and I think you and I are quite gung ho, and we're quite up for a challenge and get on for it. And we thought, yeah, you know what, actually, and it wasn't an ecological decision at first. It was hang on a minute, no one's done it electric, and something different, and then the benefits were that it's carbon neutral, that because of the environment, and people who've got an electric motorcycle like this wouldn't necessarily think to use it to go from the bottom of South America to do 13,000 miles with no fast chargers.
Harley had to make some changes, but I'm going to come back to that in a second.
But so that's kind of where it went, and then suddenly we found ourselves in the bottom of Argentina. I mean the logical thing would be to leave from Los Angeles and ride down, but because we'd already done Long Way Down, we didn't have much choice. And then of course you and I are useless in planning and stuff. So we thought, yeah, we'll just go down at the beginning of September and we'll get it back before Christmas, and not really thinking it through that it was pretty much winter down in Ushuaia, and so I think everything kind of kicked off pretty solidly once we got down there.
And what was it like just being, because you got the old team back together. You had Claudio there, you had Jimmy. I know you had some new cameramen as well, but with David and Russ, so you had the old team. So what was it like getting everyone spending 3 months on the road?
I mean, we I think we'd all had something very special before, with Long Way Round and Long Way Down. We'd gone through lots of experiences and lots of crazy stuff went on, and I think when you do a bit of touring and stuff like that, I think that gets into your blood, and you can't get it out of your system. You can never get adventure riding or traveling out of your system, and so to get the whole team back together. Jimmy Simek was around, and of course Claudio von Planta, who was one of the craziest cameramen around, and we were really able to hopefully it comes across in the show, but we were really able to sort of upscale the filming and stuff, and having Claudio involved, and then Russ and Dave, and we decided then that we were going to get Rivian involved and their electric pickup trucks, and they're doing some crazy, amazing stuff. So it was wonderful to have them involved, and then they partnered up with NL, which was a charging company, and we left the whole route that we did. We left phase 2 charging every 100 miles.
So the 150 charges that they talked about putting in at the start of the show, they did actually put them all in.
Yeah, all of them are there, so anybody can go along. Not that great use for a live wire, because they need phase 3, but you can still plug them in and use them, so they're there for anybody to have a go. And so getting that team together again and going through the whole, and this wasn't an easy thing to pull together either, because both Harleys were bespoke built for us. So they put the Pan American front end on the live wire, jacked up the back, changed the rear seat so that we could put panniers on there and stuff, and they raised it up, so it got higher. We had a little screen, the handlebars were high. They did an incredible job. Incredible.
Yeah, and they said they did it, the team who worked on it were basically doing their day jobs and then working on the bikes sort of evenings and spare time.
Yeah.
Especially for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right down to the point where they got the rear hub or the rear rim had to be cut in half and jigged, and then the whole thing soldered back together again. And I mean, it was incredible what they did, and they did it with such passion and such enthusiasm, you know. And it's funny because when you look at electric motorbikes that are around, a lot of the big companies, you know, haven't got anything as much. I mean, there's a couple of other companies like Zero and a few others who are pretty much there. And you know, this bike has been in development for about 6 years. And so, you know, the other big manufacturers didn't really have anything, really. So
was there a plan B? So if you hadn't been able, you decided you. But you decided you want to go electric.
We had plan B to plan Z every time we got on the bike, you know. And we just one day, I remember we were laughing, saying, you know, wouldn't it be nice just one day to go to plan, you know? But it really was, you know, of course we had, you know, we were talking to a couple of different people, finding out who would be the most appropriate for the trip, and Harley by far, you know, had super good range, had the adaptability to be able to plug in anywhere and all that kind of stuff. So they were, but I think you know, one of the biggest problems that we had or difficulties we had was, you know, was at the very beginning, because we'd arrived in Ushuaia in the bottom of Argentina. You know, we were delayed 4 or 5 days because of blizzards and snowstorms and charging parts and cables, and you know, these are all prototypes. The Rivians, the Harleys, they're all prototypes. I mean, nothing was on. You couldn't buy any of these at the time, you know, and so then when we finally did go off, I mean, we realised we'd only ridden them for, in total, probably about an hour before we never even charged them. You know, we charged them once in California, but there was a whole bunch of people there and they helped us charge it, and we didn't really know what we were doing. So when we headed off, and then we realized that the batteries don't perform as well when it's really cold. So you don't get quite as far as you think. And so they had all the, and then range anxiety and making all these calculations about where we're going to make it or not. And, you know, I mean, it was pretty, and it was funny because and Ewan was talking about this yesterday, and I'd forgotten about it. And Ewan was saying, "Yeah, but you know, you remember, Charlie, that first day was the perfect day. So we'd gone, and we'd made it to the first charging point, which was what the NL had done. And they weren't fast chargers for us, but we could charge off them. And we sat in this bakery, and we met the guy who owned the bakery, and had a chat with him. And then we made it to the place that we're going to stay, a little bit late, but we made it. And there was plugs outside, and we just plugged into the hotel, and it was like, well, this is going to be easy, you know. And that was the only day that it went to plan. And so I think those first couple of weeks, I think when it was super cold in Argentina, and I think that was difficult. And then we realized that we were in one place and it was so cold that the bikes wouldn't charge outside. They turned themselves off. So
is that when you took them into the hotel?
We had to take them into the hotel and put blankets on them. And it wasn't that much warmer in the hotel either. And so it was a steep learning curve. But then slowly as we got more and more north, they got warmer and the batteries performed better, a bit like humans, or a bit like a glass of red wine. You know, red wine likes to be at 37 degrees. It likes to be room temperature. Actually, it was. I think it was Elon Musk who explained about charging batteries really well, and so when people talk about batteries, they always talk about from how long it takes to put 80% in to your battery, and that's because, you know, that last 10% is very slow. And so it's a bit like a glass of wine. So when you're pouring a glass of red wine, it's a big glass, you can pour it really fast in. But then if you want to brim it, then that last 10%, you've got to slow right down. You've got to sort of just dribble it in to get it to be totally full. And a battery is a little bit like that. So that first bit was a real learning curve.
And so when you were, just a last comment about the bikes and the choice of bikes, but you decided you want to go electric. If you hadn't been able to do it, Was there a different option, or would the show just not have been made?
No, I think there was always, I think certainly in those early days, you were thinking, well, because the range wasn't as much as they said it was because it was cold. And we thought, well, a fag packet calculation means that, we're not going to make it. And sitting at the very bottom of, I think it's 13,000 miles, and of plugging in.
And the range is in theory 100 miles, but less in the
No,
car.
we could get with a little charge in the middle of the day, you could get about 150 miles.
Okay.
We could get. But at the beginning we thought, this isn't going to work. And we always said that if it wasn't going to work, then we would go back to what we did before. But we'd done that, and I think it was so important to do something different. And there was the option of being kind of almost the first to do it. And so that was kind of cool. That was in the background, but you thought, well, God, if we did do it, that'd be cool.
And actually, having watched the first couple of episodes now, and I was just excited about it because I love the first two shows.
Yeah.
But when I was reading about people's reactions, because after you announced it and you announced where you were going, then you saw stuff on social media, which I want to talk about as well. But you have those people who were kind of fans and great idea, fantastic, it's going to be something different. You have the cynics who say, oh well, lots of cynical stuff. But having watched the first episode, for me it made so much perfect sense, doing something different, doing something to be the first to do it, and actually proving that you can. You can do it.
And the other side of it is that it's a carbon neutral thing to do, and I think in this world that we live in, it proves that an electric motorcycle is a viable alternative. This thing will do on one charge easily around town. We easily will do 100 miles easily, 120, and no one commutes on a motorbike, commutes 120 miles a day, really. So, most people's commute is 30, 40 miles. And if you're doing that, this makes, an electric motorcycle makes total sense. And just whizzing from my house to here today just brings a smile on your face. It's wonderful. So the idea that it can be done and that we did do it. And one of the really nice things about it is, at first we were very nervous about asking people to plug in, and you'd come to a restaurant or something like that in middle of the day because we wanted an hour, a couple of hours charge in the middle of the day to get that extra mileage. And at first we were very tentative about, listen, I'm really sorry, but could we plug in? And of course, because in some areas we were in very poor areas sometimes, so of course we would always offer money for the electricity, of course.
Yeah.
But it's very cheap to charge them. But not one person said no. And everybody go, oh yeah, no problem. What, you're going electric? And then you go, oh, well, what kind of bikes are there? And you go, Harley Davidsons. And they go, Harley Davidsons? What, they make electric bikes? And it's like, yeah, they do now. But so that was kind of wonderful. And then what you're doing is that you were plugging into, not only were you plugging your bikes into someone's home, but you were kind of sort of plugging into them as well. So in the day, sometimes we'd plug into someone's business or something, and we'd get chatting to them, and then they'd invite you over to the, sometimes people had the house attached to the business, and they would say, no, come and have some lunch with us. And then suddenly you're sitting down having a laugh with these people that you've never met before, who are giving you the kindness. And so it was a very different experience, and really nice one.
Do you think it makes any difference, the fact that with Claudio there, it's reasonably obvious to someone where you stop that someone's filming, and the fact that there's you and famous adventure travellers, Hollywood actor, do you think that makes a difference to the average Joe on the street and their willingness to help out?
I think I think for sure sometimes that there was some madness that went on our trip with you, and and when we were in Buenos Aires, for instance, or in Guayaquil, there was a place where we got surrounded by this. I think the Star Wars thing got out, and people were super enthusiastic, and a lot of people turned up, but nice, friendly people, enthusiastic people, and and they were saying, look, people of A-listers like you and just don't come down this way, and in Guayaquil they just don't turn, they're just not here, and so, but apart from a couple of places. No one has a clue, really, or no one makes the association. So most of the time, it's just Claudio, myself, and Ewan. And then if a bigger story comes along, then Russ and Dave would turn up with an extra camera. We'd hook up with them every 3 or 4 days, 5 days. And what was really special about, Claudio is a crazy special fellow. I mean, he was on a petrol bike, so that he had more freedom because he was filming. And then we started putting accessories onto his motorbike. And we would sneak out. We said we'd go into the markets and buy all these long coloured tassels and all sorts of things. Remember when you were a kid and you had the tassels hanging off the side of
a little bit Hammond Mayan
thing. So that kind of thing. So we started putting all this stuff on, and you'd come out in the morning and go, whoa, wow. And we had this crazed llama doll that we stuck on the front of the bike and stuff. So, but technology has moved on. I mean, from when we did Long Way Round, that they didn't have GoPros or mini cameras or anything. I mean, we made it all up, and so now Claudio came along with his drone, and so 5 minutes of filming of television to explain where you are could be done in one shot. Yeah. So you would start, and the camera would the the drone would sort of hover here, and you and I were on the bikes, and we'd pull off, and the drone would follow us, and then as the drone followed us, it would just sort of lift up to reveal this expanse or where we were.
And it was something. It struck both Tom and I when we were watching the first episode. Well, in fact, the second episode when you were starting in Ushuaia. You started with drone shots, and you got the perfect sort of panoramic view of where you were. In a way that when you did the first two,
was before you were sitting, and for sure you're still sitting with us on the bike, but this time it was all about here, and this time you could sort of breathe a little bit, and for you and I, it was amazing to watch it afterwards, because we hadn't seen that expanse. We knew, like in Bolivia, where we were, really beat us up. I mean, that was probably the toughest riding for us, very high altitude, gravel, sand, unbelievable corrugation. I mean, you and I have traveled around the world, and I've ridden in most continents and most places, but that was extraordinary. And you're going along in Bolivia, at 12,000 feet or something like that, in this most epic landscape and stunning colours and beautiful place, and you've just been hammered loads of long, and you're going, Jesus Christ, when the is this going to end? And then you're thinking, come on, electric motorcycles, and you're looking at the expanse and thinking, where's the next plug?
So I know Harley spent a lot of time. They said they spent a week working on the suspension.
Yeah. So they had a test rider out there who came and dialed it in for us, because that. Suspension is a dark art. I mean, it's you may as well I mean, it's and people always say to you, so the rebound was a bit blah 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 blah, and you're going, you kind of understand
I'm sure
what it does, but I go the bounce back was.
But how did they handle going over the corrugation and the tough stuff?
I mean, incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible, and they really did an amazing thing. And I remember just laughing and thinking, here I am in the kind of sort of almost sort of Dakar conditions going through Bolivia, and you're sitting on an electric motorcycle with your tent and your camping gear and your clothes, everything on you, and it was quite amazing.
So if on the nights when you were able to camp, were you still always beholden to finding somewhere where you could charge? So
sure. I mean, I think we didn't want the electricness of the whole thing to alter the freedom of the trips. And whereas, on the past trips, we would be riding along and come 4 o'clock, you say, I'm just going to stop here and camp. And so I think on this trip, sure, that it was slightly different. So you did need to find somewhere to charge. So that, I think that was probably one of the biggest changes. So it didn't allow you as much freedom as we had before, but at the same time it gave us a completely different experience. Most places have electricity. We did. And one of the funniest things was trying to. So once you finally get to your end destination, the first thing you had to do was try and get your bikes plugged in, and so the amount of places we'd plug in, and the whole restaurant or cafe place where we'd just get plunged into darkness, and we'd have to unplug them and redo them. We became expert electricians by the end of it.
What was the oddest or most unusual place that you managed to plug into?
Oh, there's a lot of very remote towns, and most towns have electricity, so you can do it. But it's whether or not you can plug both bikes in, and you often have to try and find a different ring in the house. So maybe one side of the house will all be connected to one circuit, and the other side of the house will be connected to another circuit. And that's what you would normally do if you're plugging both in, is so you're not overloading the system. And I remember one place we went into this village in the middle of nowhere, staying in this little youth hostel, which wasn't great. There was a lot of cat pee kind of smell of the whole place. And Ewan was busy trying to get his cable up to the first floor, and we were in the carport, and he was trying to do that, and he kept plunging the place into darkness, and there was a little box in the carport where it opened up, and there was this plug that was just hanging off the wall, 2 pin for 2 plugs hanging off the wall with this wires, and I plugged in. It sort of fizzled as I put it in, and I was getting a charge, and then Ewan couldn't get his and kept plunging the place into darkness, so he unplugged his, and we said, well, just plug it in, see if it works. And so he plugged his in as well, and this cable's it was just hanging off the wall, and plugged them both in, and they both worked. And then it's funny, you kind of sort of sneak off, so that if you make a fuss, it might stop charging. So off we went, and we got an amazing charge. So we would spend, and people were so nice about it as well. And we went to this one place, and in this town, and it looked like a really nice restaurant, in this town. And we'd been struggling to find somewhere to eat for a while, and we thought, what we'll do, and we could see a plug outside, and we thought, let's go and we'll treat ourselves to a really nice restaurant. The restaurant was full, and the chefs were there, and we kept plugging in. And every time we plugged in, it just either plunged the restaurant into darkness or plunged the kitchen into darkness. And they weren't angry. They were just saying,
they were fine about it.
Let's try the plug around the back, and let's try this. And eventually we had to move up somewhere else. And then we found a campsite. And all campsites have good power sources, so we ended up staying there. And then we met this couple who were just the nicest couple. They were cycling all the way through. They'd been riding out the winter in this kind of, it was more of a kind of a holiday town type of place, which was just coming into spring, so their season was just starting. And he was from Eastern Europe, and she was from Turkey, and he'd stopped in her house, and her town. They met, and they kind of sort of fell in love with each other. And she was a school teacher, and he went away, but then he came back because he couldn't not carry on around the world without her. And then she then told her father that she was going to Istanbul to teach in a school in Istanbul. And what she'd done was she'd gone to South America with him.
Oh.
And hadn't told her father.
Eloped.
and they'd eloped. And I think for women it's quite difficult to be in in certain parts of the world, and certain things are expected of you. And what was wonderful was that she'd just fallen in love with this guy, and they were completely in love with each other. And she decided to do what she wanted to do, which is everybody's right to do what they want to do. And there she was living this amazing life. And we said, well, when are you going to tell your father? She says, I don't know.
And
there she was in South America.
Yeah. And it's a thing we always say is those trips it's about the places to go to, but it's the people.
Sure,
it's always
sure.
the people you meet. And my previous question about the generosity of people, and we've always found it. Doesn't matter where you go, and often the people who have the least are the most generous, are inviting you in for food or drinks or whatever, just almost off the street, which you'd never find in Western Europe.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I think the generosity of people, and it's interesting because you sit in America or in Europe, and there's a tendency to sort of look down at everybody else, and the whole debacle that goes on of what's going on in the States, and about things that were said about Mexico and South America and all these other countries. It's not very nice, and making them out to these countries out to be super dangerous, and why would you want to go there and stuff like that, and the one thing I've learned, that you and I have traveled around the world together, and all the other places I've traveled, and my humble opinion is that 99% of people are good.
Yeah.
And usually it's the governments that are messing it up for everybody else. And people all over the world have different requirements, have different ways of life, have different standards, have some are poor, some people struggle, some people do okay, but those are those people's lives, and we should respect everybody's and not assume, and hopefully by traveling through these places, that people will see that Central America, South America, Colombia, all these places are actually lovely places to go. I mean, Colombia was just awesome place. I mean, awesome. And we spoke to this one girl. I was looking in Medellin. I think it was Medellin. You and I are very bad at names, places, language, and stuff like that. And a very cool. And I was talking to this girl, and she was saying to me that Colombia's gone through its terrible things. You had that big thing 15, 20 years ago, when all the tanks were sent in, and there was this, this thing to try and stop all this drug lord stuff going on. And she said they've cleaned themselves up, and it's become this fantastic touristy place, and people have moved on. But she said, TV series like Narcos and stuff like that, which is all about the 80s and 90s. She said it just keeps compounding, sending the wrong message. So people still think that Colombia is like that, and it's changed. So it's interesting how I think people should allow people to be, and I think we should all, respect everybody's.
And talking of kind of danger or perceived danger, how did you guys deal with the Darien Gap?
Darien Gap, where we flew over it.
You flew over it. Okay, there you go.
There's nothing else you can do unless you want to sort of die in the jungle, because it's got every kind of poisonous snake, crocodiles, bugs, swamps.
Yeah. Well, I remember a while ago. I mean, you were thinking about.
I was supposed to do it
and actually drive through it before you break your legs.
Yeah. No, we'd organised the whole thing. We were going to take a couple of bikes and a couple of Range Rovers through the Darien Gap, and then I smashed my legs. So that's still on the cards.
I was going to ask you, that's still a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's still a possibility. It was fascinating going up, being in Bolivia and being really roughed up in Bolivia, and both you and I had a number of put downs, I suppose you would call them, or little lay downs, I suppose you would call them, in this thing. And at the time you're thinking, God, this is and always they're rough and tough conditions, and of course you can get through them, and of course you can. But in the back of your mind, you're sitting there thinking, this is super remote as well. That and you think, you can't make a mistake because, the consequences are high.
When I think back to the long way round, long way down, I think about long way round when the frame broke on the bikes, long way down. I remember you had to change suspension.
Yeah.
I mean, did anything actually go wrong on the bikes?
On the bike, nothing.
Nothing.
I know.
That's an amazing
they're
advert
good
for them.
But they're good, and I mean they're amazing. And but that bike they've been developing for 6 years. So and they really tested it for us, and that was what was so impressive about Harley, and about how they embraced this expedition.
Do you think so? They created an adventure version of the Live Wire, especially for you guys. And I know they've already got a separate adventure bike, not an electric one. But do you know, or do you think they will kind of create a production version of what you guys used?
Oh, well, listen,
I mean, it'd be crazy not to, wouldn't it?
It's so crazy. I think it would be crazy not to. I mean, it's all there. So, I mean, the great thing about these way modern bikes are built, it's that everything is bolt on, isn't it? So everything, the frame and everything is attached to the engine or to the in this case the battery, and it's modular. And so it's easily changed. I hope so. I'd be so chuffed if they did, and and it's interesting because you still get a lot of questions about electric and riding electric motorcycles and driving electric cars and with the range and the this and the that, but I think a lot of that comes from not ignorance but just opinion. So people see something new, and they go, oh no, I don't understand. And maybe they don't understand it, but I think once you've given it a go, then I think people think, well, actually, this is not bad. I mean, that will go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. The from 40 to 80 is incredible. So overtaking and all that kind of stuff is quite amazing.
And when you think about, I mean, obviously, electric cars have been around for a lot longer, and when they first came out, the range was 70 or 80 miles, and now the best of them are obviously the bigger ones, but you're getting 300 miles plus for a regular Tesla saloon.
Well, you can get a Kia, a Kia kind of 4-door kind of thing, and and one charge you can go from London to the Lake District.
Yeah.
In one charge, and people go, yeah, well, what if I want to go further? And you want to go further than that in a day?
But the technology is going to catch up on the bikes.
Yeah.
And particularly as the other major manufacturers.
I don't think it's so much about technology. I think well, it is, of course, and everything moves on. But what it is, it's a little bit like when petrol cars first came out. So you and I are sitting here in Shoreditch, and we want to, we're going to fill up our petrol car, and we're going to go to the West End, and you think, oh God, well, are we going to get there in a tank of fuel? And when we get there, will there be any fuel? And so they were, when petrol first came out, everyone had range anxiety syndrome as well, and then petrol stations started to come around, and now they're everywhere, and the same thing is happening with electric. So the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is more or less there now anyway, but it's going to be becoming more and more and more, and what will happen in the next 4 or 5 years, I suppose, is the speed of the charge will come down. So 80% on a fast charger is 35-40 minutes. So you park up, you plug in, you go to the bathroom, and there you I suppose you have to have a slight mindset or mind change about riding electric. So if I'm going to go off and I know I'm going to have to do a fast charge, well then why not make it there, so to get there for about 12:30, and these lay-bys now have Pizza Express or have things, so you just plug in and you sit down, have a pizza, and then by the time you've done that, it's fully charged again.
And do you think, so you think back to the previous 2 shows, I think almost unarguably they significantly influenced, if not changed, the adventure motorbiking and adventure travel, overland travel market in an incredibly positive way. It brought it into people's forefront, particularly with the bikes. Do you think what you've done with the electric bikes and the Rivians, the electric pickups, is going to be kind of as industry changing as you were last time round?
I don't know. I mean, it's certainly, we've certainly made a TV show to say that it is possible, and there we are. We went up, we didn't make it easy for ourselves. We went up through the Andes and up to 15,000 feet, and of course it's not carbureted, so it's electric, so there's no change in power. I don't know. I mean, I think it's for sure it's possible. I think the sexy bikes like the Livewire and the bikes they'll build in the future for sure are attractive. The Rivians are gorgeous and awesome looking cars. So I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I hope so, and I hope it shows what's possible. But I don't know. I would love to say that it will, but I don't know.
I've no doubt it will. Has that kind of whole experience then changed your perspective on climate change, sustainability, the wider things that you said came to your mind almost as a consequence of choosing to go electric?
I think for sure. I mean, listen, I'm not sitting there advocating that everybody should go electric completely, and I love my petrol bikes as well, and stuff, and there's a place for all of it. But I think for sure, if you're living in a city or if you're living in a town, if you are your next purchase, first the governments are going to make it much more difficult for you to have a fossil fuel vehicle in a city anyway. So you've got to look at the future and think, well, what am I going to buy next? And for sure, give it a go before you write it off. Definitely give it a go. And there are all sorts of benefits from it. And if you do live in the city, when we had lockdown and there was people weren't really driving around and stuff like that, and I was out walking the dog every day during the meat of the pandemic. The air pollution and air quality was different. We didn't have planes going over our house. It did make a difference. And I remember thinking, God, wouldn't it be nice if it could carry on like this and have this, have that. And it's far easier to control pollution if it's a big power station. It's there, and you can try and do as much as you can because it's a contained thing. If you're sitting in a city, to contain pollution is impossible, because it's a huge space, and so you can't do anything about it. So I think there are places for everything. If you're living in the countryside and you do a lot of mileage, well then maybe electric isn't the right answer. A very efficient petrol car is the thing to do. So I think it depends what you do.
So the show's going to be on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Why Apple?
But Apple, well, because I think we as an independent production company, we were looking for a partner, between Russ, Dave, and you and myself, we it's our own production company, and then we were looking for a partner that shared our enthusiasm and our beliefs and how we wanted to make a TV show. And we're slightly unconventional in our TV shows. We just film everything that goes on. We don't try to create drama. We just film it and just whatever happens, And I think the unique thing about it is the relationship that you and I have. It's not a forced relationship. We are best friends.
Story, isn't it?
And it's a buddy story. And so we were looking for a partner that would support us. And Apple TV, when the friend, they said, we'd love to do it. They have a new streaming system, Apple TV Plus, and they say, look, they only make a number of TV shows a year, and they said, look, we would love for you guys to be part of that, and they're a super interesting, very successful company, and so they seemed like the right fit. I mean, you've got an iPad sitting there now. You could just click on your Apple TV app and there it is.
Yes,
but I think it's very easy. I think, Apple TV is on every device. You can download it like any app on any device, and then you just click on it. And what was great fun, and I've had Apple TV, the little Apple TV box for years. I've had it, and what was wonderful, you and I were FaceTiming each other, and laughing because it turned on Apple TV a couple of days ago, and when you go onto TV shows and on that top board, as I turned it on, Long Way Up came up, and there's a photo of you and I on motorbikes in the middle of Bolivia, and it was like,
it's a beautiful picture.
oh my God, look at that! And so it was kind of a great moment. And so it's easy to watch. They spend a lot of time as well. When they broadcast something, they spend a lot of time on the color, on how it looks when it comes onto your television, and so just nice people.
Yeah. And so UNICEF.
Yeah.
So you were involved in UNICEF from the first 2 shows, and you were involved this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about the stuff you did with UNICEF.
Yeah, I mean, I think UNICEF is always something. We started working with UNICEF on the Long Way Around, as you said, and we were leaving home for a number of months, and we were leaving our children behind, and the idea of working with a charity that works with children seemed to be a good idea. And then we've become great friends with them, and we've both become goodwill ambassadors for a long time. We've been, and so it seemed like the right idea. And it's lovely, and I think it's nice to sort of to pop those into the storyline as we go along. And we went up in, I think it was in Peru, up into the mountains. And we went to this one project of this school that they built, and all of us who have children, the importance of school is huge, isn't it? And you'll even move to an area to be in that school, and the same thing is happening up in the school up in the mountains. They put this school in this small little village, and this village has trebled in size because of the school, and they teach Spanish and the indigenous language of this particular place. And we went up, and those moments, and you talk about the people that you meet along the way. That's the big thing. The motorbikes are a part of the show, but the big part of the show is the travelling and meeting the people. Yeah. And so to be able to spend the day hanging out with these kids who love being in school, and what UNICEF do to help them to encourage this whole thing of, because if you don't keep old languages going, they disappear and cultures disappear. So, and some of these kids board in the school, and then on a Friday lunchtime they'll leave school and walk 5, 6, 7 hours home, and then work on the farm at the weekend, and then early Monday morning walk home, and then back in school Monday afternoon.
So it sort of puts our first world problems into a bit of perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, Hammersmith Bridge closed, kids can't get to school, have to go around the other way. What a disaster. Actually, that whole I don't know if you know much about London, but I live in Barnes, and Hammersmith Bridge is closed. And now they've closed it to pedestrians and to anybody now because of some cracks in the thing. And we're sitting there, here we are as a first world country, and we can't even get a temporary bridge thrown over so that people can carry on walking. You would have thought that they could get the Royal Engineers in as a military exercise
and do something
to throw a bridge over the Thames. I can't see how difficult it is. Whereas in these other places that we go around the world, suddenly you'll come across this road, and there's the old bridge which has had some damage to it, and they've thrown another bridge beside it, and in a matter of weeks. And we can't even do it in this.
First world bureaucracy, I'm afraid.
So I think we need to use our first world abilities better.
So the show makes it a trilogy.
Yep.
Is that it for Long Way?
I don't know. I mean, I think always when you make a TV show or you do a big adventure, in order to sort of stop that adventure, you start talking about another one. So that, I mean, all these long journeys have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when you get towards the end of it, you're ready for it to finish. And you want to go home. You want to see your family. You know, all that kind of stuff. But at the other side of you as well doesn't really want it to finish. And you could just think, you know what, I could do this forever. You know, and so then you sort of start talking about another one to make it easy to stop the one you're on. You know, and so yeah, for sure, I think you and I have spoken about it. You know, Scandinavia would be lovely. You know, long way Scandinavia or long way Scandies or something like that. You know, to go up Hook of Holland and then go all the way around through Poland and back, something like that.
Yes.
And then you and I were laughing. We were
Funny enough, I
talking.
know some people who did a really good journey like that.
Oh yeah, oh, really? As he's sitting beside me.
Great Archie Bikoff.
But or you know, long way down under would be cool. You know, so I don't know. I think you know, you and I are I think we got some life in us yet. So I think you know, with a bit of luck, I think we'd love to do it. I mean, this one was so much fun going through South America and Colombia, and then hitting Central America and you know, Panama and Colombia especially, and Panama and Costa Rica. You know, Costa Rica, oh, it's so beautiful and such a nice place to ride through the jungle. And you know they don't have a military, and the money that they would normally spend on military, they spend on renewable energy and stuff. And they spend 90% of their time, their country runs on renewable energy. And the first light bulb ever switched on in Costa Rica was renewable energy. And for me, I think, you know, that whole belt of Central America and that bottom part of Mexico, was just incredible. So beautiful, such a place to ride a bike. Just such a place. One of the best plug-ins we ever had was in Costa Rica. So we were riding along and we saw this big solar farm, and we thought, oh, you know, we'll just stop in and have a look and see how it works. Anyway, so we stopped in and we said, you know, can we come in and would you show us around? And they said, yeah, no, come on in. And so we plugged in, and so we plugged in, and we were getting energy straight from the sun, straight into our bikes, and it was, and they explained to us how it all went and how much, and it was beautiful. I mean,
I think all the amazing people I've met who've travelled around the globe, I think they've all loved everywhere they've gone. But I think if there's one place they all wax lyrical about the most, is probably South America.
Yeah, I mean, South America is beautiful. I mean,
so for you, outside a long way, what's next for you?
you know, I mean, it's been a really difficult sort of 5 years, and I think up until it was only last August that I really started to get my proper strength back, and was able, you know, after 4 years, was able to sort of properly start going to the gym and build some muscle up and stuff, and it was interesting. I was a little bit concerned because we normally do lots of different things on these trips, and with you and Russ and Dave, you know, I think quietly, and I respect them tremendously for it, was that they without even having to make an issue about it, they all helped, you know, make this trip possible for me as well, because so that you know, they minimise because I can't walk a great deal. I can walk quite happily, but you know, after 20 minutes or so, my ankle just gets destroyed, or I have to pop loads of paracetamol and Nurofen to keep it going. But so I'm ever grateful for the three of them, and you know, to I remember when I was lying in bed and I woke up on that first accident, and the 3 limbs were all covered in plaster casts, and I just thought, shit, and I'd almost lost my leg, and I thought, shit, this is bad, and you know, and I remember lying there and feeling extremely sorry for myself, and then I remember looking over in the bed beside me, and there was a guy who was in a really bad way. And I looked at him, and I looked back at my injuries, and I actually felt quite cheery about my injuries. And I thought, well, actually, I think these will heal. But you know, my relationship with you and his, you know, he's an extremely caring kind of, you know, guy, and what was lovely on the whole trip was, you know, to have your great mate sitting there, always got your back, no matter what occasionally, and you make an ass of yourself, you know, he's still there going, you know, okay, right, Charlie, come on, let's go, you know, and never judgmental, never always supportive, and because of him,
I'm just
it really
like
helped.
Tom. I always have to.
Well, yeah, I don't think we should talk about what you spoke about before we turn the cameras on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was, so it was good. Very, very lucky, very fortunate.
All right, so the show starts in the UK on the 18th of, well, that's global.
Globally, yeah, globally on the 18th of September.
Yeah.
So 18th of September on Apple TV.
Yeah.
So
And you see the first 3 episodes?
first three, and then an episode every week. So there's 11 episodes altogether. And then it's very easy. Just you know, download the app or go into Apple TV. It's on every Apple device, and then just click on it, and then you can subscribe. You can subscribe, watch my show, and then unsubscribe if you want to, or carry on subscribing, which is what we'd love you to do.
And I would love to carry on talking, as always, for another few hours, but time has come in for us. Thank you, as always, for incredibly interesting and entertaining chat.
Look.
It's never a chore talking to you.
Well,
It's a really
at the same time,
easiest
you know,
interview to do.
Listen, what you guys are doing is fantastic, and there's, you know, there just isn't enough people talking about bikes. So I'm very grateful for you for taking the time out to talk to my crap that I talk.
Let's do a COVID. Thank you. Charlie and I decided we're going to have just a very quick competition, and we both have to try and draw the live wire, and we have 2 minutes to do it. So
Okay, 2 minutes
go.
to do the live wire.
I got it. Am I allowed to turn around and look at it, Tom, to try and draw it?
Okay, just so you know, look, it's
for
a
a mem-
blank page to start with.
It's a bit unfair because Charlie spent 3 months with the bike. I spent 2 hours last night, and I have to draw it from memory.
Okay.
This is a very hard thing to do because I'm rubbish.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. There's no shame in coming last, you know. Oh my God. I'm not sure if I would want anybody to buy this. I'm embarrassed. Okay.
Right.
So you want to do the reveal?
Yeah. So
And I did this without glasses. Without saying, geez, I should have worn my glasses. I should have. So the idea for this is your idea. So I'm not going to take the credit, which I probably will take the credit. But so the idea is that if anybody out there can bear auctioning or bidding for one of these, any money raised will go to UNICEF, and which goes straight to the children around the world. UNICEF inoculates something like 60% of the world's children, so every penny matters.